Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd like to start with a quote. The ears of the leader must ring with the voices of the people. Great president once said that. Mr. President, I rise today to make it clear to everyone in this chamber exactly why I cannot support this legislation. You've heard the chants outside this chamber, not just today and last night, but many times over the past 2 years. Thousands of people have shown up, union and non-union, men and women, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, even their children. These are the working families of Michigan. These are the thousands of people that I would sit here to represent. When I vote no, I'm voting no on behalf of the thousands of families. Who are you voting yes for? Grover Norquist? I know he sent you all a letter asking you to support this anti-worker legislation. You are voting yes because a handful of corporate lobbyists, a handful of fat cats in the back are telling you to. That's who you work for, the powerful few, the guys with top hats and monocles. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. I work for the people, for the many. I proudly represent them in casting this no vote. I'm doing what's right, what's good for the people. And I tell you this, Mr. President, we will fight you. We will not let this stand. We'll fight you from Kalamazoo to Timbuktu. We'll fight you from the streets and in the suites. We'll fight you in the penthouse and we'll fight you in the outhouse. And Mr. President, I'll tell you this right now, when it's all said and done, when it's all over, we will grab the thunderbolt of truth. We will grab the rod of revolution and we will have our victory. And the spoils will go to the working people of Michigan. And you will forever remember the day when you thought you could conquer labor. You were sorely mistaken. Be prepared to engage in the fight of your life. You might win this battle, but the wars are brewing, sir. The wars are brewing, sir. And we're coming, and we're taking no prisoners, and we're taking no quarter. And Mr. President, when all said is done, working men and women of this state will reign supreme. Thank you, and I ask that my comments be printed in the journal. And welcome to The Young Effect. I am your state senator, Coleman Alexander Young II. Always an honor and privilege to be here broadcasting with you live right here from the city of Detroit. You can call in at 313-868-0351, 313-868-0342. That's 313-868-0351 or 313-868-0342. Also, you can see us all around the world at www.tv33.com. That's www.tv33.com.
WHPR.com.
www.tv33whpr.com. www.tv33whpr.com. Yeah, you just done corrected me and threw me all off. Anyway, this is my wonderful mother, who is my special guest. She needs no introduction. Usually,
Happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody. Usually we go into honoring the troops and the soldiers. We want to thank God for them, as well as our police officers, firefighters, and emergency services personnel. But we're going to do things a little bit differently because recently it was this Thursday. It was my father's birthday, May 24th. He'd be 100 years old if he was still alive to this day. So I'm coming with you with heavy heart today because this is his week, and I've been celebrating him in this week. We had a great party over there at Solomon's Temple. If you didn't go, the only thing that was missing was you.
It was very special.
It was very nice, very small, but very nice.
Very special.
I miss my father dearly. I thought it was a very great event. But, you know, I miss being around him. There's a lot of questions I'd ask him. A lot of things I want to sit down and talk with him about. You know, some of it political related, but a lot of it not. And so I miss him dearly. What my mother's holding up is something that I got from Dennis Muchmore, who actually found that in his office. And that was something of my father and one of his old campaign ads.
campaign brochures, if you will. And so this was really a good thing that I saw. I don't have a lot of his older stuff, so when I see it, I really appreciate it. I have some of it, but I don't have all of it. So it's pretty nice to go through that and look at those mementos. So yeah, this is so I'm filled with mixed emotions right now, y'all, because I'm happy to be here, happy about everything that's going on. I'm also very sad. I think that we are living in the image of what my father built for a city. I think everything that we're doing right now, whether it be mass transit, whether it be auto insurance, whether it be rolling back the drug war or legalization or at least decriminalization of marijuana, I think all these things, whether it be residency, whether it be equal opportunity for employment, whether it be affirmative action, not just for African Americans, but also for women and opportunities for women. I think all these things that we're doing now stemmed from and came out of or derived from the ideas, policies, and thoughts of my father. When we talk about mass transit, that was something he was talking about long ago, and he actually had $600 million appropriated from the federal government in order to do that. But back then, they were arguing about the leadership in terms of who was going to run it. And you got to understand, back then, in those days, usually you had the major cities running those type of mass transit systems into the suburbs. It's not like we have now where you have these authorities. I mean, those were introduced, but those are still kind of new things coming on. It's not like it is today. So that's really where we just started having arguments over who was going to run it and how it's going to be ran. So I think now the way that we're looking at it, we don't have the money and we don't have the leadership. So that's kind of, interesting. So I think that my father really foresaw a lot of these things, whether to talk about the issues of poverty and having a plan for poverty. I think these are really good. If I can have that little booklet right here. To give you that booklet right here. No, you fine. You fine. So I think this is really interesting. Is there anything you wanted to say or anything you had to say? Because I don't want to not let you be able to say something.
No, we have a caller.
Well, let's take the caller. Caller, you on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect.
Hello, caller.
Yes. Good afternoon and happy holiday.
Happy Memorial Day weekend to you too.
Yes, thank you. I just turned the TV on, and I don't get your father, Coleman Young Sr., excellent, great congressman and mayor. And we have to also remember all the things that he tried to get, even when he was trying to get the casinos, the transit situation, all that. We have to realize, and I know it's a lot of people, we fought against him. I'm talking about people like me fought against him, that wouldn't support him. And as soon as he got out of office, then everybody wanted to run back downtown. And now we got all these leaders, so-called leadership, is not doing nothing for us. So when we tell it, we got to tell the truth. So I know it sounds bad, but I don't know nobody else I can say that. But I'm telling the truth. And I'm talking about these so-called leaders. They fought against him. And he was in office doing it, trying to get the casino situation, trying to get the transit and everything else. But anyway, I just want to call and say happy holidays. And I hope this weekend could go about all this shooting and killing among you. We got to start working together.
Did you hear about Brother Reggie? Did you hear about the shooting in front of Nikki's yesterday? Last night? Did you hear about that?
I think at the church, I didn't hear the news.
I'm sorry.
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, it was in the street right in front of it. Like two groups of young men shooting at each other.
And you know what? That goes to show you that, that goes to show you that crime can happen anywhere. I don't care if you got police here, police there. They can't be in every corner of the block, so you got folks out there shooting. I don't know if it's weather. I know parts, but I don't want to say it, but our crazy president, so-called president in office, these gun laws and all. It's just sick when we see us killing each other, young people too. I'm gonna hang up somebody else and get some calls in.
Okay, thank you so much.
Well, listen, I think that's why, one, I think we need jobs in order for these people to be, for young folks to be able to have jobs and opportunities, as well as expand apprenticeship programs. I think this is something that's very important. Now, obviously, whoever was involved in this shooting needs to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. You cannot be running around killing people or threatening or attempting to kill people like that. But I think overall, this is the problem involving education. This is the problem involving opportunity.
Speaking
This is the
of
problem involving poverty.
I'm
I think
sorry.
no, you're fine. I think this is something that's very critical. Go ahead. You gonna say something?
Speaking of education, did you see the video today on the news about the counselor at Brewer Elementary School? I guess it's a K through 8 school
Mhm.
on the east side where the counselor, um, I don't know, egged a seventh grader and a second grader to fight in a classroom.
No,
Oh, you didn't hear about that?
no, I did not
Yes.
hear about that.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
When was this?
That was on Click on Detroit.
When was this recently?
Uh, the first time I saw it was last night, and then I saw it again today.
Would you get alerts from them or what?
No, it was on the
It
news
was
last
on TV.
night.
Yeah, nah, I haven't seen that.
I'll find it for you,
No, I
and
believe you.
then I'll give it to
No,
you.
I believe you. Wow. Look, that cannot be tolerated. That can't be tolerated.
I'm
That just can't be tolerated. And I think it's just look, you have teachers that the majority of teachers are really good and want to do the right thing and want to educate their children and want to encourage their children.
There it is.
That can't be that can't
Video shows Detroit school counselor
bullying student with special needs.
encouraging him to fight. And that was at Brewster Elementary
I'm sure they
on
have
the
their
east
own
side of
internal
Detroit.
policies to
Um,
deal with that, but
no,
that
the counselor's been removed from the
yeah, you
school.
can't do that.
And so I believe that
I don't know if that's not a violation of the anti-bullying law that passed.
here
I
you
mean,
go.
that I wouldn't be surprised that counselor is facing like legal charges.
Video shows Detroit school counselor bullying student with special needs, encouraging
Said
him
she put
to
money
fight.
on the fight.
That's on
So
the
not
video.
only did she encourage him to fight, she put money on it.
That's
So she was
also
running the
illegal.
illegally gambling
Gambling.
enterprise
Which is why they
on
removed
top
it.
of having these folks fight one another.
Plus, on the video, that's
Which makes you wonder who else was betting?
in the
Who else
fuzz
knew about this? How is it?
in
Was
the
there a pool?
fuzzy part of the video out here. You can see she has a ruler in her hand, and she hits another student with the ruler, and they don't discuss that at all in
That's
the
the criminal
story.
investigation.
So that's why she's not
Wow.
in the school. The counselor
That
said,
might be a little bit too far, but I'm thinking, could they be brought up on RICO charges?
the counselor
Could that be a
said,
potential racketeering case?
"Oh, you want to fight?" Then she starts talking about Don King, Muhammad Ali, Fuqua says. She said, "I'll put money on the floor for this fight." And she went in her purse, and then that's when one of the kids was like, "Give it to me, give it to me." The school has placed the counselor on administrative leave pending a police investigation.
Oh, they said she just was. But you don't know, though. I mean, she could just be saying that, but there could. I mean, is there an illegal pool with that going on?
I don't know.
How far does that go?
Yeah, another.
We got a caller. I think we got a caller on the line. Caller, you on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect.
Hello, caller. Happy Memorial Day.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I was just thinking about the master transit system they was trying to get back when Coleman Young Sr. was the mayor.
Yes.
Brooke Patterson and the peoples in the racist state of Michigan didn't want it. They did not want to have folks in Detroit going out there in them suburbs. And what I can't understand, it's such a big deal now. The same folks that living in the suburbs 65 years ago that's out there, they come into the city, they still racist. Just like Dan Gilbert building the building downtown, supposed to be the biggest building downtown. Well, see, they're going to do that just like they do at the Renaissance Center. When blacks complain about certain jobs, what they going to say, oh, this is a private building. You can't go to the city and say nothing. But yet, they going to let him take the taxpayers' money when he get it and utilize it on what he want to utilize on it. And the city of Detroit citizens, they're not going to get them jobs. The folks going to get them jobs is white folks. They did the same thing in the Renaissance Center. I worked there for 40 years. I used to fight for my folks and complain about certain things, and what they do, they say, oh, this is a private building, we can do that. They're going to do the same thing when Gilbert get that building built. Watch and see. Thank you.
Well, thank
Thank
you
you
for your
so
call.
much for
We
your
appreciate that. And look, let me just say this too. In terms of building the building, I think that's important that we stay vigilant in terms of making sure that we have leadership that demands these jobs. I think that's why pre-apprenticeship programs are so very important, to be able to give folks the training they need to be able to get these jobs and opportunities. I think that's very important. Now, I know they do have a community benefits ordinance for these type of issues. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be used for this project. I would hope so, but you have to wait and see. Hold people who are elected accountable in order to do that. Me personally, I don't think that there's not a job in that project that Detroiters should get their access to. I don't think there's any problem in this city that a good paying job can't fix. And I think that's why we need more career technical education centers. If you're in high school, or we need more dual enrollment programs. And we need to expand pre-apprenticeship programs and invest in pre-apprenticeship programs. I know we have Access for All. I think we need to invest more in that and expand that. And then I also think that there needs to be something where if you're going to train these folks for these jobs, they actually get them once you train them. Because a lot of times you can train folks for these jobs and then they don't necessarily get them. So I think that's what's going to be really critical moving forward in terms of this investment. And let me say this too. I think that I would much rather be talking about skyscrapers and stadiums than talking about jails and prisons. And I mean, I think the fact that you have folks that are building a jail across the street from the Bank of Banks, from the Federal Reserve, from the money supply of America, I think is a significant concern. And I don't think ever in the history of the existence of the Federal Reserve has there ever been the case, especially now. And so I just think in a time where black folks are 7 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of murder, are 12 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of a drug crime, are 2.3 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of sexual assault, and are 6 times more likely to be arrested for possession of drugs, even though their white counterparts use it more than they do.
That is amazing how you can remember.
I
all
mean,
those
that's crazy.
statistics.
And we invested in building more jails. You got the DOJ, which invests $7.2 billion. And think about this for a minute. Think about $7.2 billion in prisons in this country. And think about this for a minute. We live in a state where we invest more in prison than we do in higher education. That means we invest more in building prisons than we do in educating our babies, our young men and women. And think about this for a minute. Because when you're building this prison, you got contracts with people who make the uniforms, contracts for the custodial work, that's janitors and people who clean the windows and clean the ground or cells or whatever else, I'm assuming. You got contracts for the phone calls, and they charge per head. You got contract for the food services, and I'm assuming they got something up in the jail for them to do or skills for them to learn. So you got contracts for that. Because I'm assuming they just ain't sitting up in there. They probably teach them a skill or how to make something. So you got people who have financial incentives in jails being built on top of the court system, where you're going to have a whole bunch of people who are in there for low-level drug offenses. Remember, 88% of the arrests for possession of marijuana, are for possession. That's 700,000 people a year. 450,000 people are sitting in jail right now and can't get out because they can't afford bail. And you got the bail bonds who's making money from that. To me, I just think this is a no-brainer. But if you got different questions to cause or feelings, call and let me know about it. We got another caller.
Yes,
Bring
we
him on
do.
the line. Caller, hello.
Happy Sunday.
Hey.
Happy Memorial Day.
Happy
How
Memorial
are you?
Day.
Memorial Day.
Yes.
I said, I think that we need to be determined to stay into the fight. We should not rest until justice and equality are a reality.
And can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How do you maintain, and I want to ask you the same question, how do you maintain your strength to fight when it seems like all is against us? You know, I used to say when I had my TV show, I Love Detroit, that it seemed like every time it was my turn to get anything, the rules changed.
Yep. I believe you.
Yes. And so how do we stay in the fight?
I think we're going to have to learn how to use the rules that the enemies are using. The only difference between us and them is that they are so unified. And they're so unified that they're able to keep us divided. And so we must understand and look at those who study us. Because while they're studying us, they're sweeping us off. So we have to turn our attention to why positions are being placed the way they are and how are they achieving their goals, and can turn some things that they use against them too. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. I'm sitting here reading a study that says that the state is collecting data on our kids and using it to brainwash them. And so it makes me think of you will continue to be a slave if you don't know that you're being enslaved.
So wait, so the state
it takes a lot of wisdom. You have to be wiser than your snakes in order to conquer.
The state, wait, listen. They're
using our tax monies, our reparations for corporate welfare to pay off crooked pulpit pimps and crooked politicians. They're using our money against us. And so we must understand what the tools that are being used and how they're navigating it for us to start putting some monkey wrenches in their path instead of getting them thrown in our path.
Well, all right. Thank you.
The best thing I can think of right now.
We appreciate you.
I'm a client.
All right,
okay,
love you.
Thank you so much. And happy Memorial Day.
Appreciate you.
Happy.
Love you too.
Whole weekend.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You got another question? Something you want to say?
So, the state of Michigan is the lowest state in the country for children reading.
Yeah.
They are 50th.
Yeah.
Out of 50 states. The state of Michigan.
Something wrong with that picture. And I mean, I think we need more remedial programs. I think from the federal government, we definitely need to be able to invest more where we can have a tutor per every child. And we need to start investing, I think, more in personalized learning, because what we have right now is not working.
So when I went to my advisor, who, when I went back to school for my doctorate in educational administration, I still am really interested in teaching African American male children and females, but especially male children, to read and to read early. Because research shows that the earlier they read, the more successful they will be in life. And the earlier that you teach them, the greater the success. They participate in higher education, graduate from high school, get married, pay taxes, buy homes, and 67% of them vote. So when I selected my academic advisor and I went to meet with her for the first time, I said to her, and she is an international expert in transformative leadership, which is leadership that involves equality and equity in social justice. So, and some people don't know the difference between equality and equity, but there's a distinct difference. Equality is that the policy says that you treat everyone equal. Equity is that there is shared power. Big difference. And transformative leadership is different than transformational leadership. Transformation generally has to do with buildings and, that you, anyway, that's a whole nother story.
Infrastructure.
Whole nother story.
Whereas transformative, which is more in the classroom, right?
Well, it has to do with how you communicate with people.
Right.
And shared power. So that, for instance, once I was in class and my professor asked the students in the class what was their opinion about a seminar that we had been to. And my response to her was, you're the person in power. So why would I tell you how I feel if it's going to hurt me?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's the difference between equality, which means that we all got a chance to go to the seminar, and equity, which is shared power.
Right.
And so she had to say.
And shared consequence.
She had to say, there are no consequences. I'm really just asking for your opinion.
Right.
So anyway, when I went to meet with her the first time, and because I selected her, she said, so what are you interested in studying? So I said, teaching African American boys to read and read early. And she said, why? And I said, because when we teach them to read early, there is a correlation between success and later life. And she said, very matter-of-factly, not even looking at me, she was putting some papers together on a desk. She said, we already know that. And so I said, well, if we already know that, then why aren't we doing it? And she said, just as matter-of-factly, because that's a question of intent, isn't it? So I would ask you, especially parents of school-age children, to think about that. This was a person who had been dean of the College of Education of a major university. This is the person who she spent well over 30 years studying minoritized communities. And the reason we say minoritized rather than minority is because, for instance, in Detroit, African Americans are not a minority, but we're treated like a minority community. So by that, what I'm saying is, in Detroit, the population is 87% African American, which is clearly much more than the majority and not a minority.
Right.
So why do we have African American History Month in Detroit? Why isn't it all African American history? Because we're 87% of the population. Why do we have minority set-asides for African Americans when we're the majority? So 87% of contracts should be for African Americans. You see, so although we are not a minority of the community, we are a minoritized community. And so this is the person who has worked with minoritized communities for well over 30 years and taught for that period of time. And she's saying straight out, if we're not teaching African American male children to read early, that's a question of intent. When you look at that hand in hand with the number of African American men who have been wrongly arrested, then you can see the pipeline of where that intent not to educate ends. So, knowing that, I would ask you, what should we be doing about that?
We should be teaching kids how to read.
There it is.
I think that's what we should be doing, and we should be making more investments in Head Start. We should be making more investments in early childhood education, and we should be expanding pre-kindergarten. Just like kindergarten is available for everybody, we should have universal pre-K that's available to everybody. We should have more in terms of we should have expanding learning time.
And did you know that
and we should have tutors for every kid that needs it, as well as personalized training.
Since the whole district is Title I.
Yeah, and we should have more community schools too.
Did you know that
give wraparound services, job training, tax preparation, school-based health care? And I think that we should have more in terms of, and we should expand free lunch for every child, regardless of whether they qualify or not.
The school.
That's why I'm running for Congress, because they got a plan called the Better Deal to do that.
Thank you.
Go ahead,
Mr. Senator.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Did you know that the school where this incident happened with the counselor egging on the 7th grader and the 2nd grader to fight,
betting money on it,
and hitting another kid
with a ruler,
on video?
See, it's just the worst possible thing you can think of happening all at the same time, all in the same place. How is it even possible?
Did you know that at that school they had wraparound services? I looked them up. Also, did you know that the curriculum that is used across the country for Head Start was first developed and taught in Ypsilanti?
No.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Yes. Michigan.
That's crazy. We got a caller. Caller, you on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect.
Hi.
Hello, it's me again.
Hi.
Hey, you again.
I think we need more parenting skills as well, because parents must understand and realize that a child can learn from the womb.
Well, they got baby college at the community schools, so they have that. What you talking about? Go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish. I'll just let you know that as well.
Yeah,
Go
well,
ahead.
we need to get the word out, because these parents, like your mom said, you got to get to the children early. And so when they're in the womb and when they come out, you should be reading to them and putting them in front of children development programs in front of them so that they can learn. My grandson been in school since about 15 months, and I got him in Head Start when he was 2. But before he went to Head Start, the schools were amazed at his sight of knowing. He was calling out all the letters, the colors, and they would tell me when I come, yes, sir. And I'm saying to myself, but he's in your school. You know, my thing is, they did that with my son when he was in school. He didn't see that. But my thing is, when you see a child that has ability, shouldn't they be more challenged to learn more things? Shouldn't that encourage folks to give them some challenges and, you know, keep the learning going up? You know, don't let them just stay at that level. You see they at that level, help them get to the next level. So I didn't see that with my son, and I'm starting not to see it with my grandchild. They just telling me what he knows because I and his dad read and put him in front of those child development programs for them to learn.
That's good.
So I don't know, but hey, that's why I said get the parents to understand that every day in every way, be challenging your children and teaching them because, like you said, they got to be prepared for this real world.
That's
and
right.
The more they know, the more insight they're getting, they will be able to navigate a whole lot better.
That's right.
Thank you for taking my call. I love y'all.
I love you
too.
Mwah.
Bye now.
Mwah. Bye-bye.
Now, also what I thought was very interesting today was the fact that I heard yesterday about this law involving police officers. Did you know that in 35 states, it is not illegal for a police officer to be able to sleep with someone in their custody?
No, not to sleep with them, to have sex with them.
Well, that's what I meant, sleep with.
Well, when it comes to law, you got to be
engage in the
clear.
horizontal hula or to make whoopee with someone in custody.
35 states.
35 states.
Wow.
I thought that was pretty intense. And you're hearing these stories. And let me say this too. Again, I'm not saying that all police officers are engaged in this. The majority of police officers are honest, hardworking American heroes. The majority of them. But you do have some who are abusing this, who are abusing their authority and who are trying to use this loophole in order to get away with, you know, I think malicious.
Stunned. I was stunned.
And malevolent, type behavior.
I was stunned at that.
I was like, wow, you hear some of these salacious and, just crass and brutal stories.
It's not illegal for them.
It's not. I'm not saying it's legal. It's like extra legal.
No, I'm saying it's not illegal for 35 states.
35 states.
It's not illegal. Including Michigan. It's not illegal for a police officer to use that police power and have sex with someone in their custody.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that's why I'm working real hard to make sure that we change that. And I'm working in Lansing right now.
That's me too, if I ever heard it.
Yeah. That's big time me too. And I think glad you brought that up in the Me Too movement. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? To have laws like that are on the books that needs to be addressed. I think that needs to be addressed. I mean, already you have people in the private sector who are being held accountable for their actions, such as the Harvey Weinsteins and others. But I think that right there, police officers are there to protect and serve, not punish and profit. And so we got to make sure that we hold everybody accountable and equal and have everybody play by the same rules of the road. So we got some callers. Call you on the air, Bolton Young Effect.
Hello, caller.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Caitlin Frazier, and I called it before.
Hi, Caitlin Frazier. I remember you calling in before.
Hey, Caitlin.
Hello, and I have called to state that my school and students like me have been learning about entrepreneurs and everything about them, like profit and the opportunity cost.
Hello?
Hello? Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
And also, I want to be an entrepreneur when I grow up, and I want to start a company that sells clothes for children with diseases and homeless kids.
So, Caitlin, was your school one of the schools that came to the Ford Freedom Award program for the Charles H. Wright Museum?
No.
Um, so, tell your grandmother to call the museum and ask for me. And this week I'll find some materials because the Ford Freedom Award program last week was entitled Black Girl Magic. And clearly, Caitlin, you have it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thank you.
you're welcome, sweetheart.
Were you in a documentary recently?
And I hope you win Senator Coleman Young.
Well, thank you so much, Caitlin. I appreciate it. Did I see you on a documentary at all or on TV?
Okay.
Caitlin,
Bye.
Caitlin, were you in a documentary recently?
No.
Okay. So anyway, have your grandmother call the museum
Yes.
and the Charles H. Wright Museum, and I will look for some of those materials for you because the whole program this time was on a young lady who was 9 years old now, I think, and she's been an entrepreneur since she was 5. And then another young lady who was in her 20s who's been an entrepreneur for quite some time. Also, she started a tech energy company.
Yes.
And Dorothy Height was also the honoree, and her name went on the plate in the Ford Rotunda in at the museum. So call me, okay, and we'll get some of that information for you.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you so much, Caitlin.
Appreciate you.
We're
Love
so
you,
proud of
Caitlin.
you. You're awesome and wonderful.
And
Stupendous.
Caitlin, make sure you got a pen with you.
Yes.
Make sure you call this number 517
Okay.
373
Okay.
7346.
Alrighty, I will make sure I will do that.
That's my office. We'll help you any way we can, okay?
Okay.
All right, take care now.
Bye, Caitlin. We love you.
Love you,
Happy
Caitlin.
Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day. too.
Okay.
She's adorable.
She is.
You got another caller?
I just wanted to make sure her grandmother wasn't coming
Yeah.
in.
Hello?
That was a beautiful call, a beautiful young
Hey,
lady.
we
was.
got a triple call.
Young lady. I can see it coming through. All right. Sessions green light. Police to seize cash, property from people suspected of crimes but not charged. And sadly, I did witness a white cop raping a 15-year-old in the cell. And it was not too long ago that a lady had posted on Facebook that she was arrested and sexually assaulted. And she was able to call her fiance before the police got to her. And he tried to follow them to the police station, and he told her that couldn't happen, that he could not follow them to no police station. She got to the police station. She tried to report it. They wouldn't pay her any attention, would not get her any medical help or anything. But thank goodness they know a lawyer, civil rights lawyer that is working on that case. But, yeah, they constantly making laws to hurt the people, not to save the people, but to serve their own greed, and ugly greed at that.
Well, justice is balanced, and we need accountability when we're talking about law enforcement. We're not saying that we don't honor police officers. We just need accountability, and I think that's what everybody's striving for. Is just for people to be held accountable when they do the wrong thing, for them to be honored when they do right, and for them to be held accountable when they do wrong.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you so
I
much.
have a street maintenance helper job. The city of Detroit is hiring, and the closing date is 5/31.
All right.
Okay.
And so anybody that's interested in street maintenance helper,
Oh, street
contact
maintenance
the
jobs.
City of
Street
Detroit for the
maintenance.
application.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Love you. Bye-bye.
Love you too.
Appreciate you. Will do.
Bye-bye.
We got another caller.
No.
I think that's important. Listen, I also think though that I think something that's not really talked about a whole lot in the city right now and in the country right now is childcare. It costs $10,000 a year on average just to be able to get good childcare.
Wow.
And you know, you have people out now here in this city who we are considered one of the child care desert, where there's not a lot of high quality child care here. And there's an act that they're proposing, Patty Murray and Bobby Scott, that are basically talking about, I think from Washington and from Virginia, that are basically talking about making that a right, making it actual like an entitlement.
Oh,
And
child care.
or earned benefit.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's something that's very important because right now you have 65% of parents who have children under 6 are in the workforce. And so the fact that in this city particularly, you got folks who are making decisions between, am I going to pay for my auto insurance? Or am I going to buy prescription drugs for my family? Am I going to keep my water on? Or am I going to feed my kids? Am I going to feed myself? Or am I going to invest more in my child's college education?
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Am I going to pay my mortgage? Or am I going to fill up my car with gas to get to and fro, or make a car payment? These are things that people are dealing with on a normal day basis.
And
for them to be able to add 10 grand a year to that, I think it's very tough, and we need to do more to make sure that those type of things are affordable and available. And that's why I'm running for Congress to do that.
and thank you for that. And when we go to senior citizen homes, apartment towers, and apartment towers that are not senior citizen apartment towers, we hear people say that over and over again, that they're having to balance what they spend money on.
You got another caller.
Yes, sir.
Hello, caller.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I'm calling to say happy holiday to everybody.
Oh, is that Willie
And also
McLeod?
the best two
That's Willie
that's
McLeod.
on TV right now.
Hey, Mr.
Hello.
McLeod. What's going on?
How you doing?
We're doing good. How about
Good.
you?
How you doing?
Doing fine.
Good.
Everybody have a safe weekend.
What?
Everybody have a safe weekend.
Oh, you too. You too.
Coleman learns for Thursday. Got about what?
Well, thank you so much.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
And happy Memorial Day to you and your family.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's so good to hear your voice.
Love you and God bless you, brother. Appreciate you. Got on the caller? All right, so that being said, listen, we about to wrap up in a little bit. Before we go, though, I just wanted to say something really briefly. Income inequality.
Oh.
I read something recently in the paper. This is from The Nation. I'm going to hold this up right here.
Mm-hmm.
From The Nation. And basically, it says that there is a direct connection between income inequality and decline of unionship.
Really?
They're saying that in 1955, the unions were at 30% of folks that were working or in the workforce were unionized. Today, it's at 11%, or 2017, it's at 11%. And as a result, we have seen wages fall. And they say that people of color incomes have gone up by more than 5 times if they are in a union.
Mm-hmm.
And that workers who are in unions get paid 10 to 20% more than those that don't. I think this shows why it's so very important that we support collective bargaining and unionization, and why this is such a factor in how people are living right now, and why you have CEOs that make over 300 times more than their employees is because of lack of collective bargaining and labor, because of these right to work laws or right to freeload laws. And now, not only there was a decision, the EPIC decision, which basically says that now if you're in a union, you have to go to mandatory arbitration, that you can no longer sue your employer based on the working conditions or based on violations of working laws or laws that were signed that were there in order to protect laborers, that there to protect working people. Now you got to go to mandatory arbitration. And you still got the Janus decision, which is basically going to be a federal, which I really think is a federal right to work decision.
Yes.
Because basically it's saying that you have unions that cannot be able to charge fair share fees or basically agency fees, which basically says that you don't have to join the union, but you have to pay a fee for the services that the union provides.
That's right.
Which is a better workplace, which is better wages, which is pensions and health care. And everything that you have now comes from, if you're a laborer or a worker in the workforce, comes from the advancements and progression of unionization. And the fact that we see this direct connection between the decline of unions and the increase of income inequality in this country shows that we need unions today, we need them tomorrow, and we need them forever. And a stronger unionized force means a stronger America for the working people of this country, which makes
And we
this
want a stronger
country go.
America.
That's right. And that's why I'm running for Congress. That's my time. I'm State Senator Coleman Alexander Young II. I'm here with my lovely mother, the awesome, wonderful, and Ivory Calvert. Remember, nobody cares how much you know till they know how much you care. I will see you next time right here on The Young of Facts.
Bye-bye. Happy Memorial Day. We love you, and we know you love Detroit, too. Oh, wait.
Whoa. I
Wait.
think this came out here. Whoa.
Happy holidays.
Hey.
Happy Memorial Day
When the owner run out
from
of
the
nowhere.
R.J.
He
Watkins.
came out of nowhere. He come on here the whole time, man. What's going on?
Okay, we love you.
All right, we'll see you later. We out.
Bye-bye.
Peace.